Good day, everyone. So today we're going to discuss about tourism development. So in this lesson, we will be able to determine the relation between tourism planning and tourism development, explain the rules of the public and private sector in tourism development, and describe the characteristic of individual tourism development projects, discuss the steps in the tourism project evaluation and analysis system, clarify the role of the government and financing incentives in tourism development, and analyze the private sector financing for tourism development. So, just recently, we have just finished discussing the tourism planning as a process, and at the end of its process is the plan development stage. So, how let's discuss the relation between tourism planning and tourism development. So, tourism planning process is designed to produce goals, strategies, and objectives for the destination area, while the tourism development plan provides the overall guidelines for development, outlines road development concepts, and identifies individual development opportunities worthy of in-depth and analysis. So, and the rules of the government and private sector in tourism development. So now, as to the rules of the government and the private sector in tourism development, the government and the private sectors have important role in tourism development. So the role of the private sector is more limited and more clear. Its principal role is to provide tourism facilities and services to the traveling public while maximizing financial returns. So the center of the private sector's involvement in tourism development is the entrepreneurial role, and it involves idea generation, development of project, implementation, financial risk. So, taking an investment and the management of operations, the private sectors provide specified technical skills required in the development process. So, through tourism consultations, so market research, findings, architects, engineers, designers, economists, and project managers, and the builders. So they also provide a large proportion of the capital funds for investment in tourism project through its financial institutions, corporate leaders, and individual citizens. So we have also the non-profit private organizations, which also play an important role in tourism development in many destinations. So these organizations include the Chamber of Commerce Travel Associations, foundations, historical and cultural societies, recreation and sports associations, religious groups, and the like. The role played. So by these groups vary, but typically they operate attractions, so such as historical or cultural centers, museums, art galleries, recreation, and community halls. The most important and widely accepted function of the government in tourism development is to act as catalyst and to complement the effects of the private sectors, including the non-profit organizations. So the World Tourism Organization points out that as a general principle, the government should not do what the private sector is able and willing to do to complement with the tourism development. So thus, we must always remember that the government sector should not compete with the private sector. So, although this is not generally an accepted principle and instances of overlapping and complex conflict between the public and the private sector arise due to the following reasons: the private sector is not willing to finance the development of the project because of its limited profit potential. The government, however, has given the project high priority due to its original economic contributions or its private role in encouraging tourism activity. So another reason is an existing tourism facility that is bankrupt cannot be sold on the market. So thus the government feels obliged to buy the facility. Also the government stands to provide low classification opportunities for disadvantaged groups such as the poor, the sick, and the aged, and this is often called social tourism. And lastly, the government wants to encourage private sector development by initiating new types of developments through demonstration or the pilot projects. So now, uh, so now let's discuss the characteristics of individual tourism development project. So individual tourism development projects are generated either through tourism planning process or by the private sector. In destinations without tourism plans, the public sector may identify development opportunities for private sector investment. So all individual tourism development opportunities must be carefully researched and analyzed before their construction. Potential tourism development projects have some basic differences, and the first is the capability to generate financial profits, and some projects such as hotels, commercials, attractions are profit generators, while others such as travel information centers and infrastructure. Facilities are usually not, although the latter facilities do not generate direct revenues, they are essential components of the tourism products of the destination's area. So profit generating projects are the subjects of cost benefit analysis. So tourism development includes many elements. Some includes project that involves building construction such as superstructures, and other require only human resources and equipment such as guided canoes, trips, which are under the category of programming and events. So um, the next is so here are the nine criteria that identifying desirable projects are the following. So, first is the economic contribution. So, uh, in here, the government agency will check if the project creates a significant level of income and employment benefits. So, from another criteria is environmental impact. So the government should check if the project is developed in compliance with existing legislation and regulations governing the conservation and protections of the environment. So the third one is the social or cultural impact. So the project does not jeopardize the social well-being of the citizens. Another one is the competitive impact. So the government agency should check if the project complements rather than competes with the existing tourism business without seriously jeopardizing the financial viability of any individual enterprise. Next is the tourism impact. So we need to check if the project adds destinations by creating an attractions and by being beneficial to the tourism industry. So here, we need to assess both the positive and negative impacts of the project. For the positive impacts, it might have jobs or it might provide jobs for local people as well as income for the local economy. So it helps preserve rural services, increased demand for local food and craft, and tourists mainly come to see the scenery and wildlife, so there is pressure to conserve habitats and wildlife. While the negative impacts might be the damage to the landscape like the erosion, fires, disturbance, the livestock, and the vandalism. So it might also lead to the traffic congestion and pollution. Local goods can become expensive because tourists will pay more. It might also result to shop stock products for tourists and not everyday goods needed by local demands for holiday because makes housing too expensive for local people and demand for development of more shops and hotels. Um, Next is developer and operator capabilities. Um, so in here, we need to check if they are capable of developing and operating the business successfully. So another one is the compliance with the policies of plan and programs. We need to check if the project is in compliance with the national tourism policy or it is according to the national tourism development plans and programs of the country. As to the case of the Philippines, we have the Tourism Act of 2009 that declares a national policy for tourism as an engine of investment, employment growth, and national development, and strengthening the Department of Tourism and its attached agencies to effectively and efficiently implement that policy and appropriating fund. So another one is the equity contributions. So in here, we need to check if it's profit generating so the investors have enough equity to include the venture and then lastly is the feasibility. So in here, we need to check if the project is generating and it is economically beneficial.
Good day, sir. My name is Tabale. I'm the reporter of Step in the Tourism Project and Evaluation and Analysis System. First topic, pre-feasibility study. Second, site analysis. Third, market analysis. Fourth, economic feasibility analysis. Fifth, cost-benefit analysis. Sixth, government financial incentives in tourism development. And seventh, private sector financing of tourism development. Pre-feasibility study. A pre-feasibility study determines the justification for a more detailed economic feasibility study for a project and the subjects which the detailed study should tackle. The four principal objectives of pre-feasibility study are determine whether the available information is adequately detailed to show the project will not be viable or not be attractive to investor or lenders. The available information indicates that a project is so promising that an investment decision can be made on the basis of pre-feasibility study alone. That is detailed is no longer needed and certain aspects of the projects are criteria to its viability that they must be analyzed as part of the detailed economic feasibility study. A pre-feasibility study can be completed by private developers, by a government, or by consulting organization on behalf of the developers and or a government agency. Site analysis. A, a large proportion of tourism-related projects require physical site location. An economic feasibility study can either specify site or determine if any appropriate site exists with a geographic area. The criteria of the selection of evaluation vary according to type of tourism project under consideration. For example, an urban hotel requires proximity concentration of industry and commerce. Likewise, a motor hotel requires proximity to highways, while the placement of tennis courts is dictated by the wind and sun condition of the site. Tourism project site criteria are divided into three categories. These are market-related site criteria, criteria related to the physical characteristic of sites, and other criteria. Market-related site criteria, proximity of site, potential markets, proximity of ease, accessibility, transportation facilities and modes, highways and roads, airports, railroad service, marina and harbor facilities, trail system, hike, alpine skiing, snowmobiling, bicycle, bus service, ferry service. Criteria related to the physical characteristic of site, aesthetics of adjoining lands and land uses, natural condition, climate and microclimate, temperate, perception, sunshine and clouds, humidity, seasons, purity of air. Other criteria: manpower availability, available of suitable quality of land project, cost of land, zoning laws and legal regulation, social and economic characteristic, host area, source and types of financial assistance within host areas, labor laws and labor relationship. The market-related site criteria normally includes the site proximity to potential markets, transportation facilities, accommodation, restaurant, and shopping centers. The selection requires the knowledge of the particular business type, experience and broad knowledge of construction, site engineering, ideally a multidisciplinary team consisting of a specialized tourism consultant, landscape architect, and architect should be used for the purpose. Market analysis. The market analysis of an economic feasibility study is often the most expensive and time-consuming element of the whole study process. The cost and time required are directly dependent on the combination of the original and secondary research. Secondary research involves analysis of available published source of information and is less costly than original research. Market surveys aim to producing new information and conclusion regarding the project are classified as original of research. Pre-feasibility studies can be based on secondary research, but detailed economic feasibility studies must on mixture of both secondary and original research primary. The market analysis begins with collection and review of secondary source of information since it gives a clear picture of type scope of original market research needed. An analysis of secondary source of tourism can be both time-consuming and exhausting unless the researcher is familiar with the major tourism-related bibliographies and institutions where major tourism resources are located. As soon as the review of secondary source of information is completed, a plan of original research is drawn by implemented. This involves carrying out a variety of surveys requires a research to have thorough understanding of marketing research techniques. The most common methods are questionnaires method, personal interview, under the Kuan, yeah. Focus of groups Delphic methods. This questionnaire is the most frequent. Project feasibility questionnaire are directed potential users, the potential of the owners, and the manage of the competitive of similar enterprises. The three major advantage of the questionnaire methods are visibility, speed, and cost. Questionnaire are visually faster and cheaper than the observation method. Can be involves observing, studying behavior of people, objectives, and currently rather than questioning the same information. The questionnaire method has some disadvantage. The first is that the respondents may either refuse to be interviewed or may refuse answer specific question. Male questionnaire survey usually have low response rate, with as much as 90% of the questionnaire surveys usually is not being returned, while personal and telephone questionnaire survey usually higher response rate. A second disadvantage of these methods is that a respondent may be willing to answer but not be able to provide accurate answers to some of the questions. A third limitation of respondent may intentionally supply incorrect and inaccurate information. The four the focus of methods involve bringing together a small group of personnel, usually 5 to 20 minutes in one place, to focus on a particular research subject. The research team supplies an experienced focus group leader. The objectives are enable the group to reach a consensus on questions. Statements are posed by the leader. Each participant have common affinity such as convention, meeting planners, travel agents, tour operators, tour wholesaler, or club executives. This method overcomes some of the major drawbacks of the questionnaire methods, since focus group participants tend to interact with one another and because there is a greater opportunity to explore individual preferences and attitude. The Delphi method is another research technique as associated while forecasting but can also be applied to an individual tourism project. It is also called knowledgeable panel method because it assembles for the expert in a particular field which also serve as sounding board and alternatives alternative approach ideas concept. The Delphi groups need to not meet physically, but individual participants are required to give their response a variety of written and propositions prepared by research.